Welcome everyone, Paul Jensen here, and this is the week one recap for the first week of the Danker Family Fantasy Football season of 2023. Man, what a week that was. So glad you guys are here watching. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of give a recap of what happened and share my thoughts and opinions on it. Some good matchups that went on this week, a lot of interesting things happening in the NFL this week. I'm going to go ahead and proceed. Before we get into the fantasy aspect, though, we are in the picks too. Let's not forget that. Just want to kind of go over the picks and see how everyone's doing there. Obviously, Ben with a great start coming out the gate hot, 12 and 4. I mean, that's that's incredible. Good job, Ben. Holy cow. Getting what is that, three-fourths? Yeah, three-fourths of your picks correct, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's incredible. 12 out of 16. And then obviously, Tom, myself, Maggie, Adrian, all tied for second. We did all right. We did above average, which is okay. And then Dad, Emmy, John, Carrie. Carrie, as long as you're not last, so that's a perfect name. So there you go. You're not last this week. So good job, Carrie. And then bringing up the rear, we got Carol, Thomas, not Uncle Tom. Thomas. Well, welcome to the is this your first year in our family picks, Thomas? I'm not even if I don't even know if he's watching, but I didn't even know Thomas was in our picks. So, wow, welcome. And then yeah, my mom. So, and then looking at the group picks too, we got some interesting picks. We got some lone wolfers out there. Emmy going with the Lions. Wow, look at you, Emmy, just going for it. Hey, respect. She was right. I mean, I I kind of thought about it, but I just thought there's no way. It's Patrick Mahomes. It's the Chiefs. You think when they're opening the season, they're defending Super Bowl champions. You don't think they're gonna lose a game like that, no matter who's out. As long as Mahomes was playing, you'd think they're gonna get it done. But kudos to the Lions, man. They showed up, and kudos to Emmy for making that correct pick. Wow. And then a little bit of a split action here with Carolina Falcons. I really thought it could go either way. I decided to kind of, go against the grain. I saw a lot of people were picking the Falcons. Figured, or at least according to ESPN, I think it had Atlanta like 70 something percent of all people were picking Atlanta. So I decided to go a little bit against that. But overall, I mean, Falcons won, so good job to those who picked them. Ben, Lone Wolf, picking the Cleveland Browns over his hometown Bengals. Man, I mean, I know what you're doing there, Ben. You're doing that reverse psychology thing. You're picking the team you don't want to win. That way, if they do win, you're happy because you got the pick right. But if they lose, you're happy because your favorite team won. So, you know what? In a weird way, I kind of respect it. But wow, I mean, obviously you're the only one to pick the Browns, so good job, Ben. The only one who saw it coming, obviously. I mean, Burrow, man, that was just horrific. He got his money and was like, "That's it, I'm out." I'm just kidding, but yeah, I'm repping the Cincy jersey. I mean, I hope the Bengals do well this year. You hope Joe Burrow plays well, plays better. You like to see a team like that succeed. I think at least, and as long as you're not Uncle John Banks, who's a Steelers fan. But uh, but yeah. Um, and then moving on, ja everyone picked the Jags. I mean, good job, Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence looked great. Calvin Ridley looked great. Sorry, Dad. But yeah, good on the Jaguars. Another one, Ben, second one, and of course, because it's the Vikings. He's from Minnesota, so obviously he's a big Vikings fan, and he's going to pick against the Vikings, and it worked out again. So you know what, Ben? Maybe your favorite teams will each go 0 and 16 this year. I mean, if you just keep picking against your favorite team, you're either gonna they're either gonna go 0 and 16 or this will be your only good week of the picks. So we'll see how it turns out. But yeah, so Ben picking the Bucks. I mean, the Bucks really surprising everyone, right? Like who would have thought Baker Mayfield? I mean, I know the Bucks have some good players, but you thought after Brady left, after Gronk left, you just thought that there was no way. The Bucks were, back down to square one, but good showing by Tampa Bay and the Vikings, man. Justin Jefferson was great, but and of course Jordan Addison had good performance too, but just overall, just underwhelming. There's like Vikings. Eesh, you got to figure some stuff out there. San Francisco, Pittsburgh. I'm surprised that many people picked Pittsburgh. I thought this was an easy. I mean, I know it was on the road and it's week one. You never know with week one, but still, San Francisco's defense is just unreal. They got an insane defense. I mean, they got Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, even Jawan Jennings. He's good from time to time. Elijah Mitchell, like Brock Purdy, like this team, like San Francisco's low key looking like they're going to be unstoppable, especially if Brock Purdy doesn't get hurt, if he stays healthy, if he plays the way he's been playing. Like, man, watch out. San Francisco's going to be insane. So, yeah, it's a little bit of a split there, a surprising split there. I thought there'd be more people. I thought it would be closer to almost unanimous with San Francisco. It was unanimous with Washington, which smart. The Cardinals, I mean, it was a close game. Sam Howell played a little bit worse than what people thought, but overall, the Cardinals, this is going to be a bad year for them. They're not going to win that many games. I'll be surprised if they win more than three, to be honest with you. Being here in the Valley, everyone here, it kind of expects the Cardinals to be trash. Some people think they might even get the number one overall pick this year again. So we'll see how that goes. Everyone picked Baltimore. So yeah, another obvious one. I'm not even gonna keep going with that. We got some Titans picks down here. I mean, obviously the majority of us picked the Saints. That game was a lot closer than I thought. I thought the Saints are gonna easily win that game, but both teams looked really sluggish out of the gate, and just very underwhelming by both sides, but even more so by the Titans. But yeah, Carrie, Mom, Thomas, I mean, that's on you. I'm sorry. I mean, it seemed to me at least, it seemed like the Saints would be the obvious pick, but I guess not. And then we got a majority Chargers pick, including me, but the Dolphins pulled it out. Oh man, the Dolphins. We got to talk about Miami. I mean, they are just incredible to watch. Like that was fun. That was real exciting. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. If Tua can stay healthy, if he doesn't get any concussions this year or any other injury, and he plays to the level that he can, and this Dolphins team, especially with how the Bills struggled last night and the Patriots, you don't know what you're going to get from them, and then the Jets with Aaron Rodgers out for the season now. Like, watch out. Miami's going to be, I mean, their defense is sus, but their offense, they got the most prolific passing game so far, and I'm excited to see how it turns out for the Dolphins this season. But good job to Adrian, um, Maggie, Emmy, you guys three three minority going with Miami. And you know what? Obviously hindsight's 2020, so the Dolphins offense is great. I just thought, Tua's would be a little bit more hesitant, he'd be uh, timid, just coming off those injuries. Like I just didn't really think. And plus the Chargers were at home, and Justin Herbert coming off the contract. Like you just expect he did well, but you just expect the Chargers, with the talent they have too, because I thought they had more talent than Miami, but I guess Miami's talent, even though it's not as much as the Chargers, it's greater in value in like depth. I don't know exactly if that makes sense, but anyway. And then the Eagles, we all picked the Eagles. I mean, that was a closer game than we expected. The Eagles kind of struggled. Nick Sirianni making the point that I even told my dad. I was like, you know, these teams, they don't play their starters in the preseason and they come out really slow, and that showed a little bit in week one. But we all picked Philly. They all pulled out the win. So good job, everyone. And this was, I think, the only one where we all picked the wrong team. We all picked Seattle and they lost. That was by far the most shocking game of week one. Like I thought the Rams were going to be not as bad as the Cardinals, but I thought the Rams are going to be like definitely bottom third of the NFL, maybe even bottom fourth. But wow, I mean, you just got Rams are coming back. I don't know if they're coming back, but Seattle definitely did not do well. Um, Nakua, man. I mean, I'm just, I still, I didn't really pay attention that game too much because it was on the same time as the Packers Bears, but just checking the score updates, you're like, wow, they're still winning. They're still winning. Oh my gosh, like the Rams, they're won. It's crazy. Packers Bears, wow. I'm disappointed in our family. You know what? I really am. Other than Ben, who obviously he picked the Packers because he doesn't like the Packers, so whatever. Uh, Uncle Tom, respect to you and respect to NFL Brilliance, which I believe it's Dad, right? NFL Brilliance? Yeah, of course. Who else would it be? So, other than myself, Uncle Tom, and Dad, and Ben, just for his hatred of the Packers, you guys all bought into the Bears hype? Really? Really? I mean, I get it, right? Like Jordan Love's, it's dawn of a new era in Green Bay. Like you didn't know what you're gonna get from him, and is year three with Justin Fields. I guess you're going off of that. Okay, well the Bears have to get better, right? I mean, and I still think that will be better, but I mean, it's Packers and Bears. Come on, guys. Green Bay all the way. And then the next game, Maggie and we're only two that pick the Raiders. Yeah, I'm still skeptical of the Broncos. I mean, I know they struggled big last season, and I know they got Sean Payton and they got some additions to that offensive line, and Javonte Williams will be back the whole year, so who knows how that'll go? But I still, I don't know. There's just something about the Broncos that it just doesn't feel right, and I know that's not really logical. I know that doesn't really make sense, especially to John Lopp, who's probably like, "What do you mean it's not logical?" Point is, even though the Raiders didn't have much to offer, I mean, they have Adams and Jacoby Myers did really well. Like I think he got like 30 fantasy points or something. Like, it was crazy. But yeah, and plus the Raiders historically have been beating the Broncos recently. I think they've won like their last 5 or 6 games against the Broncos, if I'm not mistaken. I thought I heard something like that. But yeah, I just figured I'd go with the historical dominance, just like the Packers. But yeah, so Maggie and good picking on the Raiders, and then another obvious one, we all picked Dallas. I mean, I know the Giants made the playoffs last year. I mean, we all kind of expected the Cowboys to win. We just didn't expect it to be that dominant. Like, wow, 40 to nothing. Good God. Imagine being like a New York Giants fan and you saved up all this money to go to week one and you're sitting in the last row in the upper deck. You spent like 350 bucks on on the cheapest possible ticket at MetLife, and it's in the pouring rain and you lose 40 to nothing. Man, being a New York sports fan has to be miserable. But except for I mean, it was both miserable and great roller coaster of emotions for the Jets last night. And of course, for the third time, Ben lone wolfing this game. Unbelievable, Ben. I mean, I don't know if this one I mean, I didn't understand because he doesn't hate the Jets, does he? Or if you do, I think it was more he doesn't like Rodgers. I mean, that could be it too. But because I thought the whole reason behind the Bucks and the Browns was because, he's picking against his favorite team. I mean, I don't think Ben's a Bills fan by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know if he has something. It's probably just something against the Jets, I'm thinking, because of Aaron Rodgers. But it worked out, Ben. And you know what? Because of that, you killed it this week. So props to Ben. May his fantasy team name still be lame, but may your picks be incredible. Good job, Ben. All right. Now, moving on to the main event, recapping fantasy week one. And to start things off, just looking at the standings, you got Ben and Carrie, the two 1-0 teams in the East with Adrian, Dad, and Carol having lost there. So that's a little bit interesting, right? You got the three consistently up there winners of the league, and you got recent newcomer in Carey and Ben, who's been decent. They're both, and I know it's just week one, right? So don't give me too much flack. But it's just interesting. And then on the West, myself and John struggled with Mom, Garrett, and Uncle Tom winning. So There you go. Those are your week one standings. Points for Uncle Tom got the most points with 138.4 points, and Carol with the least amount of points, only 71.9. Yikes. We'll dive a little bit deeper into those, into how that happened. Just a few other things that I've looked into. The best win, I would give that to Uncle Tom. You know, his margin, he had the highest margin of victory. I think it was 35 points that he won by over John Lopp. So good job, Uncle Tom. You had the best win of week one. The toughest loss has to go to Adrian. I mean, Adrian, his margin of defeat was, I think, 5.3 or something close to that. We'll see in the box score soon, but he lost basically by 5.5 points to my mom. So toughest loss goes to Adrian. If he would have just made one or few more changes, and if other certain things didn't happen, could have gone the other way for Adrian. So toughest loss, and then the luckiest win has to go to Carrie. And look, when I say this, I don't mean any disrespect. I'm just stating it as a fact. Like you scored the second least amount of points in week one. It's a fact. Yet you won. You just happen to be playing Carol, who scored the least amount of points. So, Carrie, you get the prize for the luckiest week one victory. So, with that being said, let's go to the box scores and recap our matchups and see what happened. Now, I'm going to start off with my game versus, I think it's always going to be start. So, sorry, I know I'm being self-centered, but it's just going to go with, I guess, my game first and then whoever's in line up here, basically. But to start things off, myself versus Garrett. Garrett pulled away with the victory. Just some things to note. Tua, great start. I mean, I was the last person to pick a quarterback, and I was not really expecting much out of my quarterbacks this year. Tua was my best player. I mean, that wasn't even close. Tua did really well, and I'm glad because if he does well and the rest of my team can step up their game, maybe that's good signs for me in the future. You know, you just never know. But I was very pleasantly surprised by Tua's performance. One thing that stood out for Garrett, obviously Joe Burrow, you know, didn't do well, but it didn't matter for Garrett because, you know, guys like Aaron Jones, Mike Evans, Jake Elliott, like they all vastly exceeded expectation. Justin Jefferson having a good game, you know, like having a standard game for his standards, and the Falcons defense, you know, stepping up against a rookie QB, just um, you know, he had five starters, I think. Yeah, five. He had five of his starters exceed projections, while I had six starters that didn't even hit their projected amounts. You know, like Derrick Henry, Jamal Williams, Devontae Adams, Kyle Pitts, even my kicker, Graham Gano, gave me -2 points. Yeah, that was disgusting. But I think that was the key to the victory. You know, Garrett's players, like he had the majority of his team exceed expectations, and the majority of mine didn't. So I think that's just the straight up way of analyzing this game. And looking at the bench, you know, I looked into it, and there's really nothing I could have done differently. I mean, yeah, I could have played Luke Musgrave instead of Kyle Pitts. I could have played Cam Akers instead of Jamal Williams, but in the end, that would not have made a difference. So no matter what I did, it wouldn't have done anything. I did sit Najee Harris, even though I really like Najee Harris as a player, but just playing San Francisco, there's no way I could have done it. So yeah, there's really nothing I could have done. Garrett played it perfectly, except QB, which obviously no one expected that. No one expected Joe Burrow to do that poorly week one, especially after signing that large contract. But other than that, he pretty much played it perfectly. I mean, his backup running, like all of his running backs on his bench were under Pearson Jones, and all of his receivers on his bench were under Evans, Jefferson, and Metcalf. So yeah, well done. Well done, Garrett. So that's kind of what happened there. Moving on to my mom, Tennessee touchdowns versus Adrian. Things that stand out, I mean, for mom, that Dallas defense, that was incredible. Freaking just dominating the Giants. 35 total points for the Cowboys defense and special teams. I mean, right out of the gate, they block the field goal, they return it for a touchdown. I mean, and it was just from there nonstop. They were running away with it. Obviously a dominating performance by them and on Austin Eckler, coming up huge for you too. So, uh, I think those are the two main take, and obviously Josh Allen, struggling a bit was a little surprising. I mean, obviously, it's a divisional game. Jets have a good defense. Um, but man, he definitely vastly underperformed expectations. I mean, when you're projected to get 20 points and you have nine, I mean, he had three interceptions, like that's just, and a fumble. So poor performance by Josh Allen. For Adrian, key takeaway, J.K. Dobbins injury. I mean, and that was brutal because it was still in the first half, I think, if or either that or early third quarter. But he had 11.7, pretty much 12 points halfway through the game, and that's good. Like that's J.K. Dobbins was off to a really good start, and it's just unfortunate he tore his Achilles and he's out for the season now. And I think it's his second season-ending injury early in the season. I think 2 years ago he tore his ACL or something like that. So man, just your heart goes out to J.K. But unlucky for Adrian, and also some bad luck at the tight end position. Mark Andrews was questionable going into the weekend. And then as soon as Sunday morning came, I think I got a note saying that Mark Andrews was out, and so I'm sure Adrian got it too. So he had to make that quick change, and he had to. And it's never fun. Tight end is so hard, unless you have Travis Kelce when he's healthy. You really just don't know. Tight end is just one of the harder positions to really gauge in fantasy football. So just a little bad luck there for Adrian at the tight end spot. Um, and then overall, like his players did well, did fine, did good, but not good enough, if that makes sense, So like, Ramondre Stevenson, okay, he basically hit his projection. CeeDee Lamb was a little underwhelming. DeAndre Hopkins literally hit his projection. So like other than Stephon Diggs and Deshaun Watson doing a little bit better, it's just an overall underwhelming performance by the team. And it's there's really nothing Adrian could have done. If you look at his bench, you know, there's really nothing there. I mean, Zeke Elliott 7.3, that wouldn't have made a difference. So Adrian played it right, but in the end, it was all up to mom and what she decided to do. So, and going with mom, two monster performances saved her day. Austin Eckler and Cowboys defense. Without those two, Adrian would have won this game. But so thank your lucky stars, mom, for Austin Eckler and Dallas and Dan Quinn, the Cowboys defensive coordinator. So, um, and yeah, and then just a few other things, and I mentioned this um in my what do you call it? My prediction video, which by the way, now that I'm talking, I'm realizing that I'm not holding myself accountable, even though I said I would. So I will go back. So in the next video, and I know I said this last time, but I promise I'll do it next time. Uh, in the next video, I will call myself out. Unfortunately, I just completely botched that. So my bad. I will call myself out when I do the prediction video for week 2. But for now, it's just recapping. So, but I did mention that I like George Pickens a little more than Christian Kirk. So, but it didn't matter. Mom won, I lost. Why listen to me? But having George Pickens probably would have been a little bit of a safer bet in my opinion. And then maybe, you know, I guess it wouldn't have mattered if Mostert, Samaje, they're kind of this one and the same. And then yeah, Mom, you didn't start Brock Purdy. You didn't start your Iowa State boy. What the heck? Just kidding. Obviously, no one expected Josh Allen to be that bad. So, but yeah, so that's kind of the main takeaway from this matchup. Moving on to even Stevens, Carey against CB's Titans. Carey again with the luckiest win because these were the two lowest scoring teams in our league this week. So good job, Carey. 98 points. The biggest takeaway for me for Carey was um, T. Higgins and DJ Moore were both very bad. And like T. Higgins 0, DJ Moore only 4.5. Like with those two, you would have expected them to both get at least double digits. But man, like that's just very disappointing to have those two guys play that poorly. But she did have Nick Chubb and Amon-Ra St. Brown, probably her two best players. They exceeded expectations. So that's something that is good for Carrie. Again, I'm very jealous she has St. Brown. You're gonna hear me say that a lot. Um, and he's gonna do wonders for her. You just hope the rest of the team kind of steps their game up for Carrie. For Carol, I mean, obviously, I think it goes without saying. So look at all those single digit points on that starting lineup. I mean, you got White, Chase, Johnson, Ingram, Pacheco, Steelers defense, and Matt Gay. I mean, only two players hit double digits, and one of those was barely double digits. Joe Mixon only got 10 points. I mean, and Jalen Hurts, her highest scoring player on her starting lineup, 12. I mean, that's just really bad. I mean, I my heart goes out to you, Aunt Carol. I'm so sorry, but it's just all those good, and especially the key players like Hurts and Mixon and Jamar Chase and Isaiah Pacheco. I thought he'd do a lot better. I was very disappointed in Pacheco, but yeah, just overall very unlucky for Aunt Carol. I mean, like you have good players in your team, you do. You just it wasn't in the stars. It wasn't there for you, and looking at your bench, like there really wasn't anything you could have done. I mean, even if you played Zay Flowers, that wouldn't have made the difference. So, because you lost by more than 20 points. So, yeah, I mean, it's just tough. That's fantasy football for you. It makes you feel great, and it also makes you feel like you're an idiot. But it wasn't you. It was just, man, yeah, just overall total unlucky performance for Carol. And then Carrie, the key to victory was surviving that tough luck that she had on her side. I mean, like she had a lot of people underperform expectations as well, I mean, Trevor Lawrence was good, but he could have done better. I think he had a few turnovers. Jahmyr Gibbs, I mean, he's a rookie, so you're not really expecting too much of him, but you're also, she also has options to go with some second year running backs like Breece Hall and James Cook, who did okay. Breece Hall did well. Um, so she always has that option to make that switch if she wants, or if she really wanted to, put him in at flex if DJ Moore doesn't work out in Chicago, which I don't think, 'cause I think he'll do fine. But yeah, and also one other thing to note, Carrie's bench outscored Aunt Carol's starters. So Carrie, you could have just played your entire bench and beaten Carol. So that's how unlucky Carol was. Like I mean, again, this is not I'm not trying to, this is not a what's the word? I can't even think right now. This is not a bad thing. Like, I'm not trying to like be mean to Carol. It's just it's tough. It's unlucky. I mean, it's just a fact, Carrie could have played all of her bench players instead, but wow. All right, so that's the main takeaway from Carrie and Carol. Uh, on to our fourth game, Ben versus my dad, Nashville Packer fan. Hey Ben, at least you beat the Packers in some fashion. You beat a Nashville Packer fan. So good for you, Ben. You got your wish there. Um, Main takeaway I got from this matchup, Christian McCaffrey and the Jaguars, and Calvin Ridley coming back to bite Dad in the ass. I'm sorry, Dad. I know, Dad, you're gonna, ugh, that's gonna haunt you forever. But but yeah, I mean Christian McCaffrey going off, ETN and Ridley just dominating. Like they did so well against Indianapolis. I'm really excited to see how Jacksonville does this year. I mean, obviously, I think they're hands down the easiest team to project is the AFC South winners, and I think they potentially go on a deep playoff run. I mean, the Chiefs, Bengals, and Bills all went 0-1 this week, and Jacksonville went 1-0. And I know there's other interesting teams out there like Miami, you know, I mean, doing really well. You feel like Jacksonville, it could, I mean, I'm not saying it is wide open because you still got the whole season to play, but it could be a open season for Jaguars. You never know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes there. But yeah, those two players came up big for Ben. For Dad, it was Lamar struggles. Lamar Jackson, you expect him to score at least 20 points playing the Houston Texans. Now I know They got a better they supposedly have a better defense, getting D'Amico Ryans from San Francisco as their new head coach. So you do expect a little bit of improvement from Houston, but not you didn't expect Lamar to get 6 points, like or basically seven. But yeah, just very underwhelming by Lamar. Um, and then just not enough good play from the rest of the squad. James Conner did okay. Debo Samuel did okay. I mean, he kind of also got unlucky with tight end injury, Travis Kelce getting hurt, so he had to go with his backup, Dalton Schultz, and, being a Houston Texan, not really expecting much, and he got 2.4 points. So, um, and then Evan McPherson, yeah, I mean, he missed a field goal too, but yeah, I mean, not overall, just very underwhelming. I mean, Tony Pollard and Chris Olave did well, but other than that, it's just not really much to note for dad. So just Ben getting help from those three key guys. And also, really if you look at it, Ben's team, pretty much everyone hit or exceeded their projections other than David Njoku, which it wouldn't have mattered if he would have played Cole Kmet or Njoku, he still would have won. So and so yeah, good job, Ben. Very nice that all your players basically like hit their projections. I mean, Fields a little bit under, but that's okay when you got those other players. So good on you. Dad, you had two Colts on your bench who both did really well, but I did the math, and I'm pretty sure even if you had replaced Pittman with your lowest scoring receiver, which was Samuel, and if you had replaced Richardson with Lamar, I think you still would have lost, but barely. So I think it was a little out of your control, but it would have been interesting. I mean, obviously, no one expected Richardson and Pittman to do that well, but hey, Colts got something in Anthony Richardson, so we'll see how that goes the rest of the season. Um, so yeah, good job, Ben. And then final game, Uncle Tom versus John Lopp. Again, Uncle Tom had the best win of week one, highest margin of victory, most points, and that was kind of to be expected. But holy cow, Tyreek Hill, 44 and a half points. I mean, I'm not to say it was shocking, but I was a bit caught off guard that Tom went with Tyreek at the number three pick. But looking back at it, like that's just such a no-brainer. I mean, and I know a lot of this relies on the health of Tua and the offense playing to that level consistently. But man, Tyreek Hill, what what a performance. I mean, he's so fun to watch. He's so fast. He once when he's out in the open space, he can catch those slant routes that, he'll create movement. It's so fun to watch. But yeah, I mean like obviously 44 and a half points for Tyreek. So that was the main takeaway I got from your team and everyone else kind of hitting their expectations, Josh Jacobs did a little bit Josh Jacobs and Mahomes a little underwhelming, but hey, when you got Tyreek Hill and company, it's all good. So, and then for John, your running back two and wide receiver two and your flex. I mean, it wasn't enough, I mean, Saquon, I mean, yeah, the Giants struggled, just didn't do enough. He underperformed big. Tyler Lockett didn't do anything. I mean, that was again Seattle. Who saw that coming? But he underperformed. Gabe Davis underperformed. Everyone else did all right. Like T. Higgins, I know he didn't hit his projection, but I mean, for him to be your starting tight end, it's a little you can't really expect too much from him. Jalen Waddle was okay, but he could have been better. I mean, he had 11 points, but I mean, obviously Tyreek took away a lot of those potential points. So there you go. But at least you got some good performances out of Herbert and Bijan, so that's nice. Good to see those two guys pan out for you, and also the Jaguars defense as well. Then and again, you got some guys like Cooper Kupp, Kamara, maybe Jonathan Taylor, maybe they come back this season and really give your team a boost. But overall, just a tough luck matchup going against Uncle Tom, who was the best starting lineup in our entire league, and it was just a tough luck week one matchup, man. Um, just the majority of your team underperformed, and for Tom, the starters did their job, and obviously, with the help of a huge game from Tyreek. So, and also like even with that, even with the highest scoring team, he still had an incredible bench. Brandon Ayuk, Jets, Steve. He could have. I mean, he went with the wrong defense and special teams in that game. He could have done the. There you go. But it's hard to predict. But man, like Uncle Tom, even Michael Thomas, like and Christian Watson was hurt. I mean, look at this, Uncle Tom, Devontae Smith, Tyreek Hill, Watson, Ayuk. When Watson's healthy, like how are you going to decide who to play? Uncle Tom might be. I mean, it's a good problem to have, that's for sure. So, um, yeah. So overall, great win by Uncle Tom. And those were the matchups from week one. I just wanted to note a few other things before I sign off here. So post week one projections according to ESPN, Uncle Tom, the clear cut number one. Ben going from all the way from from being ranked 10th to second. Wow, so good. What a jump for Ben Danker. I mean, the picks he did well, fantasy did well. What a week for Ben. Good job. Third, you got Garrett, solid beat down on me, so good job, Garrett. Um, fourth, you got my dad, National. Well, that's interesting because he kind of underwhelmed, but I guess it wasn't enough to put him in the bottom tier, so he's still in that top half of the league, at least according to ESPN. And then ranked fifth, you got my mom staying at five, staying solid and steady, mom. So way to just do what you're supposed to do. And then six, you got Carrie jumping up from nine to six. So Carrie making some, and I know it was luckiest win, but hey, you know what? You're up there. You're at six. You're better than me. I'm at seven. So good job, Carrie. You passed little bro champion. So good job there. Yeah, seven. I basically did as expected. Hoping for much better days for me. And then eighth, Carol dropping all the way from four, with that tough luck performance. And then nine, John Lopp. I mean, not really too much of a change there. And then Adrian. I tried to tell you, Adrian. I tried to tell you. But honestly, like you did have the toughest loss. So like as far as like not you weren't like you didn't lose by the most, but you lost by the least. So there were things that you could have done differently. I mean, no, actually, you personally could not have done it, but if mom had done something differently, then yeah, different outcome. But and if certain players can get injured and stuff like that. But and it seemed like Josh Allen was trying to give you the win there with how many turnovers he was giving New York. But yeah, dude, I tried to tell you, last place, man, power in the power rankings, week one. I know, long season. I kid, but yeah, those are our projections. And then finally, just some recent activity. I mean, this is not really that big of a deal, but uh, Adrian did drop Rashad Bateman, so he is available. Not sure if he's going to be someone people want to look at. I mean, especially when the Ravens had Zay Flowers, who went off last week, and he looks promising. And then obviously Odell Beckham's going to get his fair share of touches. So we just don't know how many targets Rashad Bateman's going to get, but he did pick up Juwan Johnson because he had to because of the injury to Mark Andrews. So whatever. And then Garrett making a very wise decision to drop the Dolphins defense and pick up the Falcons. Yeah, when I was that was one of the reasons why I thought I had a chance against Garrett because I figured the Dolphins defense was not going to do that well, especially against that Chargers offense. But when he made that move, I knew, oh crap, like I'm in trouble. So good job, Garrett, going with the Falcons defense there and dropping Miami. So that's the show. I appreciate you guys sticking around and watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Looking forward to doing the predictions for week two. I'm going to do that Friday this time. I did it Thursday last week, and I was just rushing. I was too excited for the week one matchup, Chiefs Lions, and I, didn't really take too many notes, and I didn't really think too much into it. And I know in that video I said I was going to hold myself accountable, and I plan to do that in my next video in the week 2 prediction, I'll quickly call myself out for what I got right and what I got wrong. So that I promise you. And yeah, and other than that, um, good luck to everyone on the waiver wire. We'll point out to see what significant changes were made by our players, and yeah, that was fun. All right. Oh, I'm Paul Jensen, and this has been the DFFFP. See you later.